Hi there, Andre here from Peak Motorcycles. I'm back in the garage, and in this video I'm going to be showing you how to fit a Yamoto bash guard to a Honda CRF300 Rally. Now the Honda CRF300 Rally does come with a plastic bash guard fitted, and I've been using that for the last 4 months, and I wince every time I hear something grind or scrape or ping off it that looks quite heavy. I did have a Honda bash guard ordered from new from back in December 2020, but it still hasn't come in. There is a part number for it, but the dealer can't seem to get hold of one. So I think much like the bikes where things have been delayed, the bash guards from Honda have also been delayed. So I was on the lookout for one. Lots and lots of companies are making them for the CRF300L. And I guess that's the bigger need because maybe they're selling more of the bikes and also because they don't come with anything on them. Nevertheless, I was looking for something for my bike. I'm sure there'll be others that will come to market over time, but this is the first one that I'd seen that actually looked like it was designed specifically for the Rally. I'll try and show it to you here. So it is actually made of alloy, and I will weigh it when I do my comparison. But it's the brand is Yamoto. It came from Bikerzbits over in Thailand. There's a few things that I just want to point out before I fit it. So first of all, on all these contact points where it might reach the frame, up here, here, and then also where it's going to be on the bars along the bottom, if you can see on there are actually little foam pads that are already fixed to it. It looks like it uses the same mounting points as the plastic one, with 2 bolts that go through here and then two further back. So what I have actually got is I've got some rubber washers to go in between these just to help to make sure it's damped as much as possible. So I'm interested to see how these pieces will actually fit with the existing bodywork. So what I'm hoping is that either these foam bits will be pressing up against the plastic or they'll be just behind it. It does look like a quality piece of gear. The welding on it is super solid. I can see it all over. It's welded inside now. I don't know if you can see the welds clearly enough on the camera. But yeah, they're welded inside and out. For this plate at the front, again, there's a decent weld on both sides to keep that in place. I will weigh it when I do a comparison when I've taken the other one off. But yeah, it does look like a quality piece of kit, and there are some holes in the bottom to let water and dust drain out. There aren't any at the front, but there are these sort of bits on the side. So yeah, that's it. I will move the camera down. I'll show you how the plastic one is fitted. I do have the bodywork off my CRF300 Rally at the moment to fit this. So hopefully this will be a fairly straightforward thing to do. It may even just be a short video. So before I take the stock one off, so this is the plastic one that actually comes on the Rally. I just want to show you a couple of things. So first of all, I've noticed that it does have these rubber pads which are against the frame, which look very similar to the Yamoto. There's 2 bolts at the front, which I think is essentially exactly the same mounting point, and there are no screws further back. Oh no, I tell a lie. There are some screws. I'll show you where they are when I take them off, but there's 2 screws further back. So it is a much wider plate all the way up. So what I'm hoping is that it will actually fit around my stand where I've lifted the bike, but we shall see. If not, I'll have to take it off while the bike is off the stand. A few things. So it's made of plastic, lots of holes for dust and things to get out, rubber pads, and the first thing I'm going to do is remove these 2 front bolts. So this is just a 10mm socket. There is actually a nut on the back. See if that's going to turn. No, that seems to be fine. So I think the nut on the back is actually welded to the frame, which helps quite a lot. And then the bolts that I'm taking off here, these are actually quite short, as you can see, they're like that, and they don't get reused, but there are actually some new bolts that came with the new bash plate. Okay, that's those 2 off. So actually now when I look at them, these 2 are actually different. You'd think that they would both be the same. I don't know if you can see that. If I hold them up like that, I'll hold them around the way they came off, is the one that came off the left side of the bike, or the right side as you're looking at this, has a much thicker bit here than the other one. So that might just be worth bearing in mind. I don't know if that's on purpose, but that's just how they come off the bike right now. This is as it was from new. So you can see, hopefully that's a good shot of underneath. There's 2 more bolts, one there and one there, that need to come off, also 10mm. I'm going to leave that loose for a moment while I do the other one. Now you can do this with the bike sitting on the ground. It'll be quite hard to get the camera underneath it, but given that I have the stand, I'm able to lift the bike quite a long way in the air, which does make jobs like this a lot easier. One of those out, and that is the same as the thicker one from the front, so the one with the thicker bit to go through the plastic. And last but by no means least, and that is also a thicker one. So there we go, that is the stock bash plate off the bike. So this is the two side by side. So this is the stock one that's just come off. It's made of plastic, but it is quite tough plastic. You can see I've got a few scrapes here and there. There's a hole there for the oil drain plug. If I put that over the top, that pretty much does line up with this hole on the Yamoto plate. The stock one does have a lot more holes drilled in it. This one only has these three, which I guess broadly line up with this one of these, and maybe a couple of those. So I'm not sure whether that makes a difference. It may be that things will accumulate inside here, so I'll keep an eye on that. A few things I think that are worth pointing out is, first of all, these side bits, it does come up a lot further on both sides than the stock. You know, if I hold them up like that side by side, oops, you can see just how much bigger that is. So hopefully that will give some protection when falling sideways, because otherwise you're straight onto the bodywork itself. It is a lot heavier, but I guess that's to be expected. In a moment I will weigh them, so if you're the sort of person who hates seeing motorcycle components weighed, look away now or skip to the next bit. One thing I would say is this is pretty much the lowest point on the bike other than the wheels, and it is sprung. So even though I'm expecting that this one here is going to be a lot heavier, I really don't think it's going to make that much difference when riding. And just having that flat surface when I'm jacking it up and knowing that I've got that piece of metal underneath it, I'm sure this will be fine. You know, I think this is quite tough, but at the same time, it's the places where it fits, the fact that it's got these loops where it goes onto the other bodywork. And I think it's at those sorts of extremities where, if it's going to break, that's where it's going to break. Anyway, here we go. I'll give them a weigh. So first up, I'm going to weigh the stock one. So that is an ultra lightweight, 380 grams. I'm now going to weigh the Yamoto one. Answers on a postcard. And that comes in at 1,388 grams. So you're basically adding a kilo of weight by having this instead of the plastic one. For those of you who are really trying to keep the weight down, it's probably not ideal. In fact, you could probably even take the other one off. So it is going to add a kilo of weight, but you do get a metal bash plate instead of a plastic one. Right then, back to the bike and I will fit this. So to refit this to the bike, it uses the same two mounting screws that came off the original bash plate. But for the rear, you get these two new screws that come with it. These are an 8mm hex. I've also got a couple of small rubber washers, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to place those between the metal rack and the bolt holes underneath, just to give it that extra bit of vibration protection. When it's a plastic bash plate, it might make a bit of a rattle, but not a lot more. But when it's a metal plate against the metal frame, I don't really want it to be contacting and rattling whenever there's vibrations. I'm also going to put a little bit of thread lock on them. Once this is on, I'm not really expecting to have to take it off very often, if at all. And I also definitely don't want it to come loose while I'm riding. So by putting the thread lock on, I know that some people use it on everything. I really only try to use it when I absolutely have to. But it looks like I won't need to take this off very much. So first up, I'm just going to put these original bolts back in. Just a tiny drop of blue thread lock. And I'm not going to do these up tight just yet, because I need to be able to fit the rubber washers in at the rear. Now for the rear, as I mentioned, I'm going to, you can't see this, but believe me, I am putting them in from underneath with a bit of thread lock, and then also putting a rubber washer just on the between the guard and the frame. So I think this might be one of these things where you have to do one first and then the other, and I suspect that it's the rear ones that have to go in first. Okay, that was one in. Just let that hang for a moment while I put one in on the other side. Let's put this rubber washer in, which I will just try and slip in between the frame and the hole. Pull that out for a moment. Try not to stress the other bolt too much. It appears to have gone in. Okay, that is in now. That's actually pretty solid just for those two rear ones in. The foam pads are flush up against the frame, and that is quite reassuring to know that if it does take a hard hit, that it's actually going to be some damping between the bash guard and the frame itself, but I'll show you those when everything is back on. So I'll put the two front screws in. Now you do have to push it up a bit to get it to line up, but they do line up pretty well. They're certainly the right spacing, which is key. And actually for how those line up, I'm wondering whether that foam is actually now under too much stress at the back. So I might just slacken off the rear bolts slightly before I tighten it up. Right. Well, it's good to know that if you drop a screw inside, that it will come back out again. So the challenge I have is that with the bolts that go back in, actually does need to be up a little bit higher even still. So I'm just going to let the back off a little bit more. So it is actually it's the pads that's actually stopping that from going through. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a prop under this, and I'm just going to drop the bike down onto it and let that push the bash guard into place. I think it's better certainly to have the foam pads under compression, but I don't think I'm going to do that by hand alone as it is. On the top of it, so I'm just going to let it down off the skylift onto there. Okay, so that's the back wheel on the ground, so I'm just going to lift that up. Oh, that's on much better. So just putting a bit of pressure under there has actually just brought those into alignment. Okay, so that is fixed. I will just jack it up again and just check the tightness of the rear bolts. But yeah, that's worked quite well. So that is everything fitted now. And it's certainly solid. You can see just under here that the frame is hard up against the foam pads. I can reach the oil bleed bolt quite easily through the hole there. So I think that will probably stay on the bike now forever. Let's see how that goes. So that's it. That's my video done on how to fit a Yamoto aluminium bash guard to a Honda CRF300 Rally. I hope this has been interesting and useful. If it has, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.